Welcome to the 11th edition of Tech Sparks, the largest tech and startup conference. This time we're doing it from the safe confines of our home. And we're talking about a sector that is super important and has been most massively impacted by COVID, mobility. According to several reports, close to 90% of people have not been using any mode of transport, and especially the shared mobility transport, which has impacted several of the companies that are there on my panel today. So there is Vivekananda HR. He's the co-founder of the startup Sunicorn, I think now, Bounce, which is the last mile mobility player in the city of Bangalore, Hyderabad, if I'm not wrong, and few other cities in India. Then we have Rapido, which, true to its name, is rapidly been growing so far. Rapido's again co-founder and a friend, Arvind. Thank you so much, Arvind and Vivek, for joining. And one of the most interesting companies so far that I have encountered and covered, Dunzo. Hi, Karthik from Dunzo. He's the head of strategy and new initiatives of Dunzo. So I just want to understand from all three of you, before we get into each questions for each one of you, want to understand from your personal experiences what is the impact been on mobility due to COVID and the current COVID crisis.
Sure. I think the way we look at Dunzo, it's like a browser on top of the real world, right? Where you can transact, courier, commute, kind of move stuff from one place to another, right? Principally, we look ourselves as the logistics layer than necessarily like a vertical category player, right? Because you have so many such a large delivery fleet on the ground, you could leverage them for moving things from point A to point B. You could also leverage them for moving people from point A to point B. So for us, mobility is really an extension of the core logistics use case that we have, and not necessarily like, hey, this is a category that we would want to get into. I think the other big nuance as to why mobility becomes important for a player like Dunzo is that what mobility gives us is that we no longer have what you would call peak hours and lean periods, right? Any vertical delivery startup, you would see peak hours and lean hours, right? Food has got 12 to 3 and the 6 to 9 p.m. slots. Similarly with a pure play startup, right? In our case, because we are horizontal in nature, there are no peak hour lean hours, and that is only kind of aided by the fact that you're able to put something like a bike pool into the system. And kind of this has got two broad advantages. One is that from a Dunzo perspective, because the utilization is flatter, because your fleet is utilized throughout the day, the cost base is much, much lower. You don't really have to overpay for lean hours and peak times. While from the delivery partner lens, the earning potential actually increases because now they're able to service more orders in the same given amount of time. But I think the one small part that we're most excited about is that it actually promotes true gig economy, because now people don't really have to come online to fight for the same share of rides or the same share of orders during the peak time, because orders are well distributed kind of throughout the day. And the way you think of it is, because it's a large delivery fleet, if tomorrow there is another use case that comes up on a bike that a delivery partner can do, we would definitely kind of go ahead and leverage that. So you could think of Dunzo more as a browser and not necessarily as this three standalone independent entities, because the same delivery fleet that does all of the three aspects that we have: commerce, commute, and courier.
Great. Thank you so much for giving us that insight, Karthik. So, but let me just move to the core mobility players as well, who've been doing this for several years now. I would like to understand from you, Vivek, what is the kind of impact the overall mobility segment and Bounce in particular has seen in the past few years?
I think both us and Rapido, when you say are doing good, I think we still continue to do good, right? As in the core proportion still remains the same. Just that people not coming out would mean very different for business, right? But I think the mobility companies that we and Rapido or any other play that we are talking about on two-wheelers are trying to solve is a big problem, right? As in access to mobility is very broken. Needless to talk about it. Large populations still depend on public transport, and with COVID hitting that, you've seen how crowded our buses are, how crowded our trains are. So the risk of either the COVID transmission, all of this just accelerates when you're in a very congested space and when you don't have that social distancing, right? So I think the need for mobility just becomes much more obvious. And fortunately for us, we don't have a human other than the user. And it's easy for people to take care of their safety and still do the rides. But I think fundamentally what has changed in mobility is that a lot of people are now working from home. They've gone back to their hometowns. You're hearing to Karthik, right? Karthik was otherwise in Bangalore, now he's in his hometown. So there is fundamental shift in a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. But I think the core proportion still remains the same. As in, people have to move, and it just gives us a good time to think about how to run business effectively and scale it in a better way, because we've always been on a run throughout. I think this was a good pause in between, and we are just making sure that we come back better, and we are getting better. So all those decisions that you always wanted to do and you never had the time to do, this is the time for, I think, for most of the companies to get better, right? So that's what is happening. That's how I think most of the startups in India are looking at COVID.
Right, right. Arvind, in your case, it's a bike hailing model, at least in Bounce, you know, it's a single rider, but here in Rapido's case, there's a pillion and it's a hailing model per se. So, you know, what kind of shift and impact did you see in Rapido, and how is it moving forward for you? What kind of innovation do we see?
Sure. I think we'll talk about more about mobility right now
Hmm.
than our logistics business. I think, see, in mobility, April, May, June has been really tough in terms of overall business almost going to zero for a couple of months. And then not understanding what exactly that people are looking at after that. But there are two positive things that happened during these tough times,
Right.
especially as Vivek has mentioned. One of the major thing pre-COVID was our major customers were not coming from public transportation because the price point is a bit more compared to public transportation to Rapido's pricing. But any kind of social distancing is not possible in public transportation. That is quite evident. And because of that, it is very evident in majority of the cities where after metros being shut, for example, city like Delhi, we have recovered 100%. City like Kolkata, we recovered 80%, right? It's especially because a lot of people travel from central transportation, which is like metro, subway, or local trains. And because of lack of that, the recovery was a lot more faster. Because people are looking at alternative modes of commute. I think one thing that we need to understand is this is just not an health issue, but it's also a financial impact for a majority of people. We can't suddenly imagine that people will go and buy their personal vehicle during these times. So that's the reason we have seen whoever is coming out. I mean, one of the major shifts that happened is the type of people that are coming out. Earlier, college students, early office goers, youngsters was a major segment for us, but suddenly it shifted to bank employees, government employees, or people working at hospitals. So there's a lot of different kind of people, and every unlocking has opened a lot of new use cases, or back to old use cases, I should say. So that's the reason every unlocking is only helped in the recovery rate a lot more faster. And earlier, again, if you see, our the way that we used to target every problem is whether if it is efficient, whether it is convenient, whether it's affordable for majority of the audience. And I'm not talking about just top metropolitan cities, but a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities. But now there is one other factor called safer transportation option. So right now, so looking at a lot more initiatives which where captains and customers both feel safer on the platform. Good thing is at least bike taxis and it's an open environment compared to a closed environment like a public transportation or a cabs. So that is obviously that helped us a lot. And number two is even though the customer and captain, there are two individuals on a vehicle, but there are very less touching parts. The captain doesn't touch any of the vehicle. The customer doesn't face the captain face to face. So there are, because affordability after public transportation, that is a huge advantage. And then better than definitely cabs are a closed mode of commute because of affordability and safer being an open environment.
Right. Karthik, just back at you. Want to understand what is the impact on the bike sharing part of the business for Dunzo? Because you had just, it wasn't exactly a long established business like the hyperlocal delivery part. So, what was the impact of COVID for the bike sharing aspect?
Perfect. I think echo the same thoughts as Arvind did, right? I think April, May, June, we actually shut down our entire kind of bike sharing vertical and across all of the 3 cities that we were live in. And it was only during the third quarter that when we actually ended up opening up. And it's been a very, very phased opening where we started off with Jaipur. Now we are opening up Gurgaon and kind of Hyderabad. And I think there have been a couple of interesting insights that we have seen. People are kind of, yes, there is the cost part, but people still are extremely conscious about using a four-wheeler, especially a closed wheeler. So that's been an interesting segment that has transitioned to what you would call either the bike sharing or the bike hailing model. I think the other interesting insight that we have seen is, I think, which Arvind hinted at, right? The target segment of users has changed. A lot of what you would call pharma sales employees, bank sales employees, feet on street sales team have become active users versus what you would call students and office goers that you saw before. So I think that's been a very, very interesting segment that we have seen, that new segments are literally opening up for kind of these kind of services. I think COVID has actually helped accelerate that kind of journey where these segments of users, especially the corporate users who potentially would not have transitioned into something like this, but because of the safety that is provided by kind of having like non-closed door aspects, has actually helped the ecosystem.
Right. Vivek, I just want to ask you, a big question is on the inventory model. Like, there is a massive inventory that that Bounce has when it comes to two-wheelers. Everyone, you quintessentially remember the yellow and red bikes of Bounce. So just want to understand, how does that get impacted when there's such a large inventory in place, Vivek? And, how do you work around that? Is there some shifts in that model you're looking at and you see? Because I do remember you mentioning a rental model sometimes. So
yeah. So when COVID initially hit in April, May, June, one of the things that we did logically was asking people to keep the vehicle with them for a longer duration, right? So that worked pretty well. And bulk of our fleet are under that plan now. So we've been able to keep them basically utilized, etc. And we also sold off few vehicles in both Bangalore and Hyderabad, and brought on a little impact of debt from these scooters. And what we also did during this time was we always wanted to accelerate EV. So now we have been doubling down on EV. So we sold off a few fuel scooters. We have been purchasing electric vehicles. While ideal case, we don't want to own any scooters. But today, still the financial models are still not very easy, where I just pay per kilometer or get someone else to invest on the scooter. But we have in past done this kind of models, which has worked well. So we will continue to focus on how can we not have assets on our balance sheet, and can it be a distributed ownership kind of model. I think this is the time to explore all those things that we always want to do, right? So we'll continue to do some experiments around that, and if you are able to crack that, then it becomes highly scalable, and you don't have to worry about owning these assets. So.
Right. There's also the fact about, cleaning these assets regularly and ensuring, because they go through multiple touch points and multiple hands. So that also, I'm guessing it's in place, the cleanliness factor and all of that.
Yeah. So what we did in the cities that we have been operating is that we onboarded a lot of mom and pop stores. So we encourage people to drop it off in mom and pop stores. And the mom and pop stores are now they can earn more money by doing very simple things like either fueling up a scooter or swapping batteries or cleaning the scooters, things like that. And consumers also can feel more safer because they're picking up a scooter from a kirana or a mom and pop store where they know that the bikes would have been taken care of. And also what we've been telling users is to bring their own helmets, make sure that they use sanitizers after they use the scooter, etc. Right? Because irrespective of how well you do anything, someone passing by the scooter and sneezing, you know that you can't promise a 100% sanitized vehicle, right? So we have kind of asked users to be careful about what they've been using, because like Arvind was mentioning, Karthik was mentioning, people need a safer mode of commutes, and of all the alternates available, probably the options that you have are the only limited ones, right? As in either you do a bike taxi, or you ride the scooter yourself, or you buy your own scooter. Buy your scooter is not so easy, right? As in, though it sounds easy, we know that the bulk of population probably during this kind of times probably would want to save money and use it for other things than buying a depreciating asset, which probably they use only for about an hour a day. So the people are also very, it's India, right? So people are also aware on what is the risk of doing certain things. So of all the options available, I think these are the safest options. And people take care of themselves because they know that they have to go back home. There's a family waiting for them. They're also very logical, and they're being taking care of things. So, so fortunately, I think this is something that people understand and should also take care. And we have been also educating and telling them why is it important, etc. All of that. So I think we can't. To be honest, I can't think of any other way of moving around, which is safer, right? Other than owning your own vehicle, which we know is not practically possible for everyone. So, so in a way, people get this, and it's always the best option out there. So.
Right. Arvind, recently Rapido has also launched auto hailing on its platform, and that puts you like almost in a direct, it already put you in competition, but now you're in direct competition with Ola and Uber. So tell me, how does that thesis work? Because, it takes a lot of time to get the mind share of a person to shift to book also an auto from Rapido when, if I want an auto, I might just go to an Ola or an Uber. So tell us a little bit on the thesis and, the shift. Is it like an additional plan that you had, or is it something like COVID accelerated? How does that work?
Yeah, I think we were never new to competition. I think we never had more than 1 or 2 months of head start that we started Rapido. Everyone has actually jumped to our idea. But I think, so here, as I said, one of the things that happened during pandemic is people were looking at a safer mode of commute. And after bike taxi, in our asset light model, we feel auto is a natural extension to ensure a similar kind of safety, a safer mode of commute. And because we are spread over multiple cities, we always think that whatever we launch has to be something which can be deeply penetrated in India in more than hundreds of cities, right? And auto is definitely something which is penetrated deeper into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities where people are aware of it. But the only challenge is the online penetration for the same auto rickshaw is not that high. So the idea here is, right now the timing has accelerated definitely. It was always in the part of our plan, maybe 2-3 years down the line, but it has definitely accelerated in terms of what we can do with the technology that we have, with the users looking for not every time you go solo, not every time bike taxi will be the preferred mode of commute, but maybe whoever wants to, it is something which is an additional use case for the existing user. We are not here to again build a completely new set of users. That's not the idea. But our users traveling 4 to 5 times a month, how can we make it around maybe 7 to 8 times a month kind of use case? So that is more to do with. And as I said, it's more about deeper penetration. Right now we are already launched in 14 cities just a couple of days back. The idea is, how can we launch almost 50 cities by end of this year? And yes, I think the way that we are looking at even auto is, if you see the way that we have built our bike taxi business, the captains are core to it. A lot of products that we build in terms of how do we make our captains a lot more independent, how do they earn money whenever they are free, how can they get their money that they have earned whenever they want. It's more like, as we are talking about gig economy, it also has to be as seamless as possible for them to onboard, to make money, to do multiple things. So we also launched delivery on an auto, which is something very hardly people do that, right? But in a lot of tier 2, tier 3 already they do that, but there is no any platform which enables that. Because of COVID, right, from people transportation we went to logistics, from food we went to grocery, delivery, where we partner with much larger definitely aggregators like Swiggy, Zomato, JioMart, etc. The idea is, how can we make this available to any kind of people who want to make extra money? That's always the objective of what we started, that whoever wants to make money, how can they come and make money on my platform, right, whenever they want, whatever money they want. There's a lot of people who used to work just on Friday to go on a movie on Saturday, just like that, right? That how we think about the gig economy and the products that we build on top of that. So yeah, I think that's where, definitely COVID accelerated, the way that we run the business is, we are profitable in bike taxi and we are also profitable in auto rickshaw, or we will always want to be profitable in auto rickshaw. We don't want to lose money in a category which is a natural extension to our core category.
Right. You beautifully segued into my next question, which is for both Arvind and Karthik. And, I just want to understand from the both of you, you all very, very strongly have played a part in the shared economy and gig economy segment. And needless to say, COVID has impacted that severely. Like, if rides are not happening, obviously the captains are not getting paid, and same goes if, Dunzo's case, at least the delivery was like essential deliveries were going on continuously. But in an overall market perspective, how has it impacted the jobs, and what kind of shift do you see in the gig economy per se, shift of jobs in the shared and gig economy? Because it has been the next big thing from 2015 at least, and the pandemic has changed all of that. So maybe Karthik, you can start with telling us the impact it has had on the jobs in the gig economy, and then Arvind, you can add to that as well.
Sure. I think when the lockdown was announced, right, I think a couple of interesting things happened. Initially, we saw a huge migration from, especially the gig economy segment of delivery fleet, who actually moved back to their villages and all. So the first 15 days, first 30 days was actually a massive crunch, and kind of that kind of helped in balancing the supply demand inequality that you had in the system, right? Because now with the volume of orders as well as the volume of the gig economy kind of employee base on base, it helped balance that out. So I think that was an interesting thing that happened at the start of the economy. Now what we have seen over the last kind of couple of months is that people who had actually moved out, at least this whole gig economy workforce, are actually slowly coming back into the system, right? And as and when the different delivery service platforms, different ride-sharing platforms, as they're slowly increasing, these people are getting absorbed back into the system. To be honest, I think the supply of the delivery fleet still outdoes the demand that's out there in the market. But I think that's something I think we see kind of mapping over the next kind of 3 to 6 months. The other thing that happened is that what you would call a lot of factories actually shut down, a lot of stores actually kind of shut down. So what we actually saw that a lot of these people who used to work as store executives, who used to do like a evening shift at a factory, so they have kind of transitioned towards the gig economy segment. So that was something that, it was an unfortunate aspect of people losing their jobs. But I think the good part is that because the good gig economy exists at such a huge scale in India, a lot of these people are actually absorbed into that segment. I think so for that, in that specific aspect is something that gives us the confidence that we would be able to work closely with the governments and move the regulations forward. Because if there was no gig economy, the impact would probably have been a lot more starker.
Right. Arvind, how did it impact the Rapido's captains per se and the gig economy at large?
Yeah, so I think so maybe we are maybe definitely one of the largest fleet on the ground. We used to have in Feb more than 275K captains who used to be active on our platform on a monthly basis on a pan-India level. So the first thing when lockdown has announced the major impact, obviously apart from team members, apart from revenue, the major thing is there are a lot of people who used to be part-time dependent on us or full-time dependent on us. How can we make their income back, etc. And as Karthik has mentioned, actually supply has been much higher than the demand that we had. It's especially because a lot of people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of people became maybe salary cuts have happened, so they were looking at alternative ways of making money. And this platform is kind of something where the only skill that is required is how to ride a bike and just having a smartphone. So definitely supply is a lot more available. So even though people have gone to hometown, we never faced challenges in supply. But suddenly the way that we used to give even benefits to the captains has completely changed. Earlier, it is more about monetary benefits whenever possible, etc., or accidental insurance that we used to give. But suddenly, we need to start giving even health insurance for these captains on a monthly basis. Not only for them, if they want to buy for even family members, negotiating a better deal where even for 100 rupees they can get an insurance which can cover more than 2 lakhs at a monthly basis. So a lot of different shift in the way that we started giving even benefits to the captains. Again, as I said, our major objective is overall we want to make income to the captains, where earlier our logistics business used to be just 8% of our revenue just before COVID. And during those 3 months, it's like literally 100%. And now even we recovered 50% of the total business. Our B2B or our logistics business is increased more than 2.5 to 3 times compared to our pre-COVID. And earlier we used to be in only top 10 cities, but we penetrated deeper into 25 cities with the logistics. And we also launched a couple of new products, which is extending our logistics business to different use cases and then launching it more than 65 cities. Right. So in the income level, yes, maybe monetary side, it is slightly lesser than pre-COVID in terms of their earnings, but I think compared to the other opportunities, even 75% back in terms of earnings is a better position to be at from the captain's point of view. And we are making sure we utilize them to the max by working on a platform, by enabling a lot of use cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks so much, Arvind. Vivek, to understand from you, this clearly has impacted a lot of jobs, not just the gig economy side of the jobs, the delivery partners, or even the riders, but a lot of people have lost their jobs. It's suddenly some jobs have become completely redundant. So, just understanding from your perspective, what is the play and role of job shifts, overall job shifts in the mobility segment? I'm not talking just from the driver's perspective, but the overall shifts you see about the people working in mobility companies. What kind of jobs can they expect? What kind of shifts are there? How do they focus on reskilling and training themselves in that sense?
I think there would be no fundamental shift in jobs in mobility companies as such. I think just that we at Bounce had to go through a round of layoff to make sure that we become lean, and we are well capitalized to go after and be prepared for the COVID times as such. But I think there is no fundamental shift in jobs. I think what excites the best of the people to work in mobility companies is the complexity of the problem. And I continue to believe that the best of the people like the toughest of the challenges to be solved. And I think mobility is a segment where the problems are very unique, not solved before. And there's a lot of growth in solving these problems. So I think mobility companies will continue to attract a lot of talent. Imagine not having a driver and making sure that you don't have to rebalance scooters and you still get to recover enough money to recover for your EMI, etc. Right? So these are very complex problems, and there's no one way of solving it. And you can imagine from a Bounce point of view, these are unsupervised assets also.
Right,
so
right.
how do you solve for pilferage, theft? How do you solve for good experience on scooters? All of these problems remain very interesting and challenging ones, because once you solve this, there's a lot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So,
Right.
And these are very interesting and challenging problems to solve. I think most of the mobility companies offer this to employees than the salary, which gets them excited. So I think
Yeah.
mobility will continue to be one of the most interesting segments where people would want to pursue their careers. And I think also mobility companies solve real world problems, right? So which actually can impact millions and billions of people. So I think the best of the talent will still continue to come after mobility companies and seek an opportunity there.
Great. What is the kind of innovations and shifts we can expect in the mobility segment, and what kind of push and regulatory push do you think will help propel the segment further?
I think what you can expect out of startups now is that probably more leaner and meaner mobility companies, which probably will get to profitability much sooner and probably build scalable businesses. I think at least that's what you can expect from Bounce, where keen eye on numbers, etc., those kind of aspects. And second, I think it will play a very pivotal role in moving people during COVID times. I think most of the mobility companies, that is what it can bring to the society as such. And if it's sustainable, then there is a value that we are all creating for the society. I think that's what you can expect from mobility companies now.
Yeah, right. And regulation, what kind of shifts?
I think regulatory wise, I think there is a lot of innovation which can happen on entire mobility segment, be it in terms of regulations or, for instance, for shared mobility to work. How will the penalizations work? If someone jumps a signal, will it be Bounce paying, or can we make sure that the DL of the user is earmarked? Right, from tech to the acceptance of these kind of things. It's a new innovation. I think it will take time, but if governments can do that, then it's a big win.
Great. Quickly, last thoughts, Arvind and Karthik.
Yeah, sure. I think, again, as I said, the bike taxi, how do you go deeper into use cases? Because one thing that we need to understand is it's a completely new concept. It's just a 3 to 4 years old concept where few of the startups are trying to build the awareness of this. So it has to be, innovation is the key. I mean, till now, what brought us here is in terms of how do you question, how do you maybe make people sitting behind a stranger is a completely new thing, right? Which I've never heard of. So that itself requires a lot of mind shift change, a lot of way think people perceive it. And the reason of why we call them captains is because these are not a professional taxi drivers. There are very lot of people who are free. They want to make money. So there is a lot of things that even pre-COVID that was like more basic necessity for us. And that's where we came up with a new concept in terms of Rapido Shield, where the customer and captain has a shield in between them so that they feel safer as an additional safety measure. And also, how do you recognize the captain that is wearing a mask or not? So with the help of maybe AI. So there is a lot of things that we are doing it. We have to do it right to make sure that people gain the trust on the platform. And regulation, yes, but right now, one thing that because all these startups are kind of creating a lot of employment, especially during these tough times. So a lot of governments are proactive in terms of asking for what is required. Even during these pandemic times, a couple of states have legalized bike taxi, which earlier were not. So I think there is a lot of shift that we can see that happening in the next 1-2 years. So there's a lot of things that we are doing with the government, and a lot of players coming together and working with the government to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Karthik.
Perfect. I think Arvind and Vivek covered a bunch of interesting stuff. I think there are two other things that I think we at Observe have seen a big change and quite passionate about. The first one is that people adopting the shared mobility space because there's like a conscious move towards a better earth, a better world, right? And it's something that you've seen a lot of kind of recently, where people are actually being able to appreciate the importance of how resources are getting depleted and how shared mobility actually aids to that, like what you would call the sustainability goal. I think the other big change we're very, very excited about is that because of what has happened during the COVID, the amount of respect that has gone for the gig economy has meant that a gig economy worker is actually considered to be a great first job to have. A lot of the people who work for Rapido or kind of for Danzo or for the other place in the market actually make more than what some of the IT services companies actually pay to a first year fresher, right? So given that, I think, but it had always lacked that respect. I think that's been one of the massive changes that has happened, where people have started appreciating the job, and which is inherently translated into it being considered as a great first job to have. I think personally for me, that's actually a massive change in the Indian ecosystem, because in India, to be honest, Indian ecosystem always had this barrier on the dignity of labor aspect. I think this is helping bridge that entire gap. I think on the regulation front, I think Arvind pointed out really well, right? I think the very fact that you can now get on a Zoom call with the ministers, with the government authority, has been a massive change. And I think the way I look at it is that COVID has actually been an inflection point where the government has actually started to realize as to how closely they need to work with the startups. And I just hope that we are all able to build on top of this, and hopefully over the next 2-3 years, it's no longer an us versus them. We're all in it together.
Great. Thank you so much. I had a great time talking to all of you, and thank you so much for all your thoughts and inputs. And let's hope for the best now coming forward. And thank you so much.